The scope of a variable is the region of code in which it exists. And the idea here is there are a lot of very popular variable names that you're going to want to use over and over and over again, like I was using count in a previous video. Now if I declare a variable called count, it would be confusing. In fact, it's impossible for me to have another variable called count, right? Because the idea is the computer would never know which name it is. But if I declare a variable called count, does that mean nobody else in the universe can ever use this variable? Obviously that would be problematic. So the way that this works is a variable only exists within the curly braces in which it is defined in. So if I scroll up, here's my main method, there's the curly brace. I'm announcing that there will be a variable called count inside the curly brace, so it only exists starting here and below it until that curly brace is closed. And then in some other part of the code you could create another count variable. So I've created a little while loop here, and let's put another while loop inside there. I'll create another variable called count2. So I've created another count variable called count2. It will exist inside these curly braces. I have another loop here that uses count2. Count2 gets incremented, so this loop will end. Now notice if I outside say system.out.println, this will compile because count exists inside the outer parentheses, or the outer curly braces. However, if I change this to count2 and try to compile, the compiler is going to tell me cannot find symbol variable count2. And this is a common source of error. You're going to look up here and say, wait a minute, I declared count2 right here. Why can't the compiler find it? Well, that's because count2 only exists inside these curly braces, the innermost curly braces in which the variable is defined, and therefore out here it doesn't exist anymore. And this is good because it means you can reuse variables over and over and over again. So for example, if I have another while loop, I can declare another count2 variable, right? So I can declare count2 a second time, so I can reuse this variable name in here and in here, and the idea is they will be considered different variables because they are in different scopes. This issue of scope is one reason why for loops are special, because the idea in a for loop, you get the variable that you create in that first parenthesis has a special scope that is really different from almost any other place in Java. This variable exists within the loop and throughout the duration of the loop, but not immediately after it. So this count is not being redeclared over and over and over again. It's only declared one time, but it's eliminated immediately after that. So if I were to do system.out.println here, I'm going to get a compiler error. Alright, I had to delete all that other code, but if I try to compile this now, count will be out of scope. It cannot find the symbol. It's out of scope there. But if I were to take the system.out.println and put it inside, you could print it up and it wouldn't be a problem. And that's the idea of variable scope.